You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. You're about to listen to a conversation between myself and the frontman and I believe bass player from a band from Norway. Their name is Enslaved. The fellow's name, Grutle Kjellson. Now, Grutle, if you're listening, I sincerely apologise if I've mispronounced your first name and surname there. The reason for the conversation is to promote Enslaved's August tour of Australia, that is August 2018. I'll read out some dates. They're playing the 29th in Perth, the 30th in Sydney, the 31st in August, and there is one date in September, that is in Melbourne. So let's have a listen to what Grutle has to say. Here we go. Hey mate, how's things?
Good.
Bit of a busy day, talking to the Australian media types, I bet.
It is.
No worries, all good. Mate, I'll kick things off because I know you're in the middle of them at the moment, so you're coming down to Australia. I think this is, you've been down here a few times now, so you must be excited about that because I know there's plenty of fans down here that are looking forward to you performing. And you're coming down here next month, or this month. It's in August. I shouldn't say next month.
Yeah, it is actually, in the end of this month. Yeah, super excited. The last time we were there in 2016, it was pretty amazing. So was 2013. So yeah, excellent fans and always a great pleasure to come down under and play some heavy metal, of course.
Yeah, cool. And do you feel obliged to bring a special show down for us, or is what you do for the Australian audience, is it fairly typical of what you do for when you're going on tour for the other countries?
Well, not really, because not very typical. Because this time, right before we go down there, we will perform the Frost album in its entirety. So I think there's going to be more old songs than usual for the Australian audience this time. So since the material is pretty fresh, we will perform that whole album on the 25th in Bergen. So there's going to be at least 2 or 3 songs from the Frost album, and I don't think we have played that many songs from that album in Australia before. So I hope that's exciting, and I really hope that the new material from our latest album is equally exciting. So it's definitely going to be special.
Yeah, I do like your new album, I must say. I'm one of those guys, because I'm 40. I got into you guys back in the day. I remember the Metal Maniacs publication that was released in the States, and you could buy it just about everywhere that good metal publications were sold. I remember reading about you back then, so I remember taking a chance and buying a CD and really enjoying it. And it was only recently that I got back into you, to be honest with you, because I actually left listening to heavy metal for rather a long time, about 10 to 15 years or so. Just got stuck, because I'm a musician, I'm a bass guitarist, and I was playing a lot of funk and disco music, so I started listening to a lot of that stuff. But you never go too far from the music that's in your heart, and heavy metal it is for me. So when E was released, I had a really good chat to Ivar Bjornsson about it. So now that you've had a chance to tour behind it and you've lived with it for a while, is it an album that you enjoy playing live, and how does the audience respond to it compared to, say, you've mentioned some of the older material, so how does it compare to, say, one of the earlier albums if you're performing a lot of material from that?
It really depends on the individual songs. Some of the old songs really, for some weird reason, blend really well into predominantly new song set list. It's hard to explain why, but I mean, I guess it's the amount of energy in the song, the dynamic in the song. So for some weird reason, really old material with Enslaved, like songs from Viking Ligerveldi and Frost, really blends better with more recent material than say some mid-career stuff. So I really don't know why, but Frost songs fits better with E songs than E songs and songs from, let's say, Monumentation or Below Lights. It's I guess it's got something to do with the energy level somehow.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It is a bit strange, but yeah, that's just the way it is.
Do you find, I was talking to, God, you talk about the album Frost, of course, that you guys released in '94. I was talking to Frost from Satyricon, who was were talking about their most recent album, Deep Calleth Upon Deep, and how well that gets a reception from people in the audience. And there are people in the audience that aren't even familiar, he was saying, with some of the earlier material, and I assume that he's talking about some deep cuts off, say, Nemesis Divina, which I find absurd because it's a great album, and I think if you're into black metal, you get into albums like Eld, your release in 1997, that was the one that I had, and Nemesis Divina. But do you find you get some of those blank looks when you're pulling out some of those deep cuts from Eld or Frost, from some of the younger members of the audience?
Yeah, yeah, of course. It might be weird for them at first sight hearing songs from Frost, Viking Gavelli, or Eld. If you got into the band around the times of, let's say, Rune or Dutcherbay. But I mean, I think there's still there's always been some sort of a red line through all the Enslaved albums. So I guess if you give it a little time, you can easily recognize Enslaved in all the albums, or playing style, and it's it's same but different. The good old same but different. Yeah,
that's a good explanation for it, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting to see your evolution over the years, actually, because I certainly wouldn't have picked that. I like what you're doing with E, as I've explained, so I certainly wouldn't have picked that you guys ended up where you are on E based on the music that was produced on Eld. So has it been a conscious evolution, or has it been more organic?
It's been very much organic. It's like we always, I mean, our approach to music has always been try to make our own, some sort of our own favorite music, and try to not repeat ourselves, not making the same album all over again. I mean, there are enough bands that does that, so we don't have to. I think if you have a certain goal to have an album sound like this or that, or if you have like a direction on it, it kind of gets a lot more constructed rather than natural and organic. I mean, if you try to suit make the album suit to a certain audience, or even in critics, it becomes very sterile. So I mean, I think the main idea is that don't listen to anyone, don't give a fuck, to do this for yourself, and you end up making it a much more interesting music.
So you guys broke. We'll talk about the early days again. You guys broke at a time when corpse paint was effectively the norm. Any band from Scandinavia worth their salt, as far as the media was concerned. I'm not talking about fans and musicians, but as far as the media was concerned, I know as a young lad growing up here in Australia, one of the first albums that I bought was the Immortal album, Pure Holocaust, and I was both terrified and enthralled by the cover of those guys on the front of that, because I'd never quite seen anything like it. You knew it wasn't like Kiss, you knew it was something else, but did you ever feel, careful with my words here, pressure on you? Don't strike me as the sort of bloke that's going to be pushed around easily, but did you ever feel pressure from the scene to say don the corpse paint and say keep it on, when it clearly was never part of the way you were going with the music?
Fuck no. I mean, we're ugly enough without it, so. or pretty enough.
Pretty enough.
Yeah. I mean, it was never our thing. So I mean, why would we? I mean, the only pressure we ever felt was the pressure we lay upon ourselves to make.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you've actually got the cover of one of my favourite albums ever tattooed on your arm. So, how important is Bathory to you?
Very important, man, because that was like kind of the standard of extreme music from the day I got into it back in when was it? Maybe it was 86 or 87. It was 87 before when Under the Sign of the Black Mark was released. The summer of 87 was the first time I got into Bathory, and it was like that was probably when it comes to inspiration, that was one of the biggest milestones for me. I never ever experienced such extreme energy before, and it was so unique. I mean, we were familiar with bands like Venom and Slayer, and of course the thrash metal bands, but they were not even close to the occult energy that really that spawned out of Quadron's head. So that was just totally amazing, and I really enjoyed the albums that came off afterwards as well, when he was like experimenting more with his adaptation of Viking music, like on Hammerheart and Twilight of the Gods. So it was really mostly all of the Bathory albums up until, well, including Blood on Ice, were really, really important sources of inspiration for Enslaved. So, of course, I needed a goat tattoo on the arm. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, you're right about. I've interviewed the guys involved, Venom Inc. these days. The version of Venom that's fronted by Tony Dolan. Awesome guys. But you always knew that they were working class lads from the north of England. Whereas with Cawthorn, you thought he was some sprite sent from Valhalla that went back to his cave when he wasn't making records. That was certainly the perception that I had as a young fella growing up. So you've hit the nail on the head there. But let me ask you a question. I mentioned earlier that I read Metal Maniacs, the print copy, and I remember reading a story. Now, feel free to debunk this because it might be completely wrong, but I think one of the first tours he did of the States might have been a success, but you were playing in some very unusual locations, and one of those locations apparently was a laundromat. Is that true?
Partly, because it wasn't on the first tour. That was actually the laundromat was on a tour that took place in 2001. We were touring with Macabre from Chicago, and was it Diabolic from Florida?
Yeah, that'd be right. Yep.
And and Electric Wizard from England. And a band called Scar Culture from somewhere in the States, I can't remember. And it was weird. It was in Cincinnati. It was called Sudsy Malone's Laundry and Bar.
Oh, right.
Bar. Emphasize on and bar,
Okay.
So let's say 30% of the room were like a small venue, kind of like a punk rock venue. And the rest were, dryers and washing machines, and people were like doing the laundry, like old people and shit. They're like watching what the fuck is going on the other end of the room. That was pretty amazing. That was it was absolutely weird. I mean, you can actually look that up on online. Sudsy Malone's Laundry and Bar, and you can find loads of bands have been playing there actually. They went out of business a couple of years after we played there, but loads of bands have actually played there.
They're two very diverse target markets, aren't they? Alternative music fans and heavy metal music fans, alongside of people who don't have washing machines at home that need washing done in the laundromat.
It was pretty amazing. I mean, I couldn't concentrate on the audience. I was just watching the guys do laundry. So I was watching underwear, during the whole set.
The old fellas with their tidy whities, getting them out and putting them in bleach and all the rest of it, and you're out there doing your thing.
It was pretty retarded, It was.
All right, mate.
Fun experience. Yeah.
That's classic. Oh, thanks for confirming that, by the way. It was one of those questions that had been burning its mark into my mind for years, and I thought if ever I get an opportunity to chat to you, I'm going to ask you that question. So thank you.
I totally understand that, of course.
All right, unfortunately, I'm going to end with a serious question. Okay, it's not a controversial question or anything like that, but I understand the role of religion causes us all, any thinking person, to be honest with you, to shake their head a little bit. But what's your view on the role of religion in society today? Has it changed from all those years ago when you were doing interviews, or is it virtually the same?
It's basically the same. And I mean, religion, or let's say monotheistic religions, has always been more about politics than actual religion. So you can put it this way: I hate both equally. I hate both politics and monotheistic religions, because they're all based upon lies.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
well, they're all lying fucking bastards. So In the end, that really wears me out, of course. But
what do you do?
what am I to do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll write some yeah. I'll try my best to write shit about it in my lyrics. That's all I can do, I guess.
Well, you're doing a pretty bloody good job at that.
Obviously, things are changing and things are getting more and more extreme. But I mean that's been the case throughout history anyway. I mean, this is not so much different than the Inquisition. Or anything like that, the witch burnings and stuff like that. It's the same thing that happens all over again, and it was politics back then, and it's politics right now.
You're not wrong. It's very well stated. I better leave it there, mate. Believe me, I could talk to you for another bloody hour, but such is the nature of these phone calls and these interview opportunities. You've only got the 20 minutes, but look, congratulations on an outstanding career and for doing it for so long too. I know you've had to be very resilient through it. And the quality of your catalogue is outstanding. You've got 15 albums or whatever, probably more releases, but 15 albums or thereabouts. I don't know how you've done it, but congratulations for doing it. And I'll try and be in the audience when you come and play Brisbane.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you so much. That's really nice of you. And see you in Brisbane.
For sure.
All right.
No worries.
Got to move on now.
Okay.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Catch you. Bye. You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. That was a conversation between myself and Grutle Kjellson from the Norwegian band Enslaved. Thank you so much for listening.